welcome to the 6 Degrees of John Keel podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Barbara Fisher. With me today, I have Kiki Dombrowski and Susan Demeter, the Witch Sisters. All of us are together, the three weird sisters, and we're going to talk about the holiday of Samhain, which most people know of as Halloween. And no, I know it's spelled like Samhain. It is not Samhain. So, what are you all doing for Samhain this year?
I am so glad you led off with the Samhain thing. It does look like Samhain. It's very confusing.
It is.
But it's a Celtic word, so it has a really interesting pronunciation.
Yes.
Samhain.
Yes,
right?
Samhain or Samhain.
Yeah.
I've heard it both ways.
I think when I was a teenager, I probably made that mistake based on bad kind of horror movies, Samhain, until I was corrected. So I think it's an honest mistake, but it is Samhain. Yeah,
it is.
It's definitely. It's almost like I say tarot. It doesn't rhyme with carrot. Like when people say carrot.
I just saw somebody on TikTok talking about tarot, but I don't remember who it was. But it was somebody like making fun of it, basically satirizing everything. But I can't remember who it was.
I hear tarot and tarot.
Yeah,
those are the two that I hear. And then it's unusual because if you read the word Samhain for years, you think it's Samhain, and that's just, I didn't know at first either.
No, and I don't think anybody in the United States or Canada or anywhere that doesn't speak a Gaelic language would know unless they heard it first from somebody who knew. Because, that's not the way we make phonemes in English. So,
It's not a tongue twister like Luagnasad.
See, you say that better than me. It's like, it's Lunasa something.
Yeah, or Lunasa. People say Lunasa. You could just call it Happy Bread Day.
Yes.
I think I'd prefer Happy Bread Day. Well, I'd call Lunasa. But it's
it's not easy. It is not easy unless you're a Gaelic speaker. It's not. Now my husband did long ago make a reference to Samhain because he dressed as Samhain for Halloween for the witch's ball. He got a mint green leisure suit and he wore horns and he got this ridiculously huge pentagram and got a ridiculously huge silver chain to hang it around his neck like he was a disco dude. And he had a name tag that said Sam Hain. And he ran around and shook people's hands and introduced himself as Sam Hain, used broomstick salesman. So, yeah, he did play with that really, really well. And of course, he had such curly hair, you couldn't tell the horns were, tied on. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, what kind of things do you like to do for Samhain?
Well, for myself, I view it as a time to do some banishing. I like to reflect on the past year. I do accept it as a new year within my own practice. So I reflect on perhaps things that were negative, things that are no longer serving me, things that might have not worked out for me. And I tend to write these things down. I may even draw them out and, like actually sketch them. And then I'll burn it. I have a wood stove, and then I'll just, as part of my my Samhain rituals, I'll do a banishing. And then start maybe thinking about the new year and new things that I might want to do, and ways that I might want to bring in more luck, or or good things towards me, towards my family. So I use it part of the time that way. Also, honoring my ancestors. When I was in Canada recently, I was able to spend most of the summer with family that I hadn't seen in 3 years. And I was able to bring home some pictures and photos of various family members. So I've been going through those like in the kind of lead up to Samhain, and getting my altar ready, my honoring table for my ancestors. So for me, it's a very meditative time. I also, at each Sabbath, I like to take a ritual bath. So these are the types of things that I'll be doing here, and as well as it's Halloween, and Halloween happens to be my husband's birthday. So along with Samhain and the period of Samhain, is this wonderful celebration of the man I love. So yeah, so it all works. Yeah. So it's joyous, but also meditative, and yeah, it's probably my favorite time of year and favorite holiday. Because I mean, both Samhain and Halloween. Because I like all the kitschy stuff. I like dressing up. I like giving out candy. I like all that kind of thing. So, even when I was a little child, favorite. Way better for me than Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah.
I call Halloween the beginning of the Holy Trinity, where I am obsessed with Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas and all the decorations. So I think that I was mentioning before we started that I went to TJ Maxx. I'm always there. Yeah. But I was like, I have to go and look at all the little cute Halloween knickknacks. Yeah. And, it seems that as every year comes through, there's more and more witchy themed things. Like Michael's, I went to Michael's, this is next door. Michael's has, it's a craft store, and they had like a whole collection of like potion bottles and, grimoires and like palmistry pictures. And I really like it. I have no problem with it. It really brings me joy. I wonder how it feels looking at those things if you are not a practicing witch, and how it impacts you energetically. For me, it brings me joy because I think it's really cute. I love all those knickknacks. I love like they have like Halloween gnomes this year.
Yes. Yes. I love the Halloween gnomes.
I actually got one because I was spending a lot of time at Michael's when I was in Canada. And my sister has like the entire Halloween village. I don't know how much money she spent on this, but it takes, she's got a table just dedicated to the Halloween village, which is just so amazing. I think I got one of the little villagers a witch, but she has like the witch's cottage and the apothecary shop, and there's like some groovy diner with zombies and things, and it all lights up. And so we spent a lot of time at Michael's. Yeah. So I could bring the whole store home with me if I could, but I just had little knickknacks and things like you said. I just love them. They bring me joy too. I think even if I wasn't a witch, I think it still would, because I have such fond memories of Halloween and being a child, and that even just the Peanuts, Charlie Brown, Halloween, sitting in the pumpkin patch and all that. I rewatch that now, just because it's even the music just brings that smile and that joy, and it's such a fun time of year.
Yeah, I love the Peanuts, the Great Pumpkin, and I was teasing Morgan Daimler because she can translate from Gaelic, so someone had given her some kind of flack for not including Cernunnos with Irish gods, which is proper. He's not. And I said, how could you forget the Great Pumpkin? And it gave her a laugh because, the Great Pumpkin is, I guess he's our American sort of spirit of Halloween. and he's wonderful.
Mhm.
We always watch Nightmare Before Christmas twice a year, once for Halloween and once while we're wrapping presents around the Christmas holiday.
Another
So,
classic.
yes.
I don't know, do you guys know what a squishmallow is? It's like a pillow kind of velvety stuffed being. I have Jack Skellington as a
Oh,
squishmallow. He's on my
wow.
bed.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, Fox would be so jealous. So jealous.
I just love Jack Skellington. Yeah. I've got I got so much Jack Skellington swag, but that is my favorite thing is I found it while I was in Canada, and it's so wonderful to squish it and hug it and just,
Yeah.
it's so amazing. My favorite
They,
thing now. My
they are the
squishmallow Jack
squishiest.
Skellington.
They are the
Mhm.
squishiest, pushiest, most wonderful, fluffy things. I love them.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, one of the speaking of Michael's, it wasn't Michael's that Fox and I went to. It was Joanne's. We don't have a Michael's here in town. We have to go to Columbus for that. But Joanne's had all of their Halloween stuff on 70% off. So, but we're not going to put it up for Halloween. That's the funny part. It's actually going to be for solstice. We're going to have a witch tree this year, and probably
Wonderful.
for every year thereafter, because Christmas hasn't always been a happy time with members of our family. There have been issues in the past. So, every year we've kind of paganized it more and more and more. And this year we're finally just going to celebrate on the solstice with our very pagany tree, with these two black, sparkly trees that we found that are supposed to be for Halloween at Joanne's, and I'm going to put little lights in it. And then I have a white angel that I've been using for a while as a Perkta figure, as the white woman, the white lady of the Black Forest, and she brings the snow and the cold, and she has an entourage of the spirits and ghosts of children, and she watches over them, and she hangs out with the wild men who are called the Perkton. They're named after her, not the other way around, and they have horns. So I put that together, and instead of poinsettias that look really flowery and Christmassy, it's going to look proper Black Forest this year with the bare trees and all of the animals, and it'll
Wonderful.
be awesome. So Fox and I bought all of the stuff, and then put it with the Christmas stuff in the basement, and it's going to come out in December. And so I'll put pictures up then. Mostly for Halloween, besides all of the fun stuff, because I still have, Morgana's 33 now, but she still takes Fox out. Fox is 16. They're both small enough that they look like, older adolescents. So they still go out and go trick-or-treating, and they dress up and they have a great time. And the Halloween for me is a lot of kid stuff, but it's also the Samhain part. I always have a little altar for the ancestors. Similar to Susan with burning things to release them or to unbind them, I have a cauldron that I use to burn things in. And if I've had any pets or family or friends who have died in the year prior, I always write their names and messages of love, and then burn it to let it go to the spirit world, so they know that I haven't forgotten them and they're still loved. So that's one of the things I do. Another thing that I have done in the past with a group is have what's called a dumb supper. I don't like that name because it sounds, it just, people don't get the meaning of it from the name of it. But basically we eat in silence and set places for the ancestors, and we welcome them, and then we eat silently and mindfully. And that's really hard in our family. We're too talkative. We can't do that. It just doesn't work. So I just make an altar for the ancestors and leave food offerings. And I have to be very careful to put them up high where the dogs can't get to them, and they have to be something that the cats won't like. So it's usually things like apples that they won't, go after. But apples are symbolic as well. So, because if you cut them crosswise, not up and down, if you cut them crosswise, there's a 5-pointed star inside from the seeds. So that's
sorry.
Huh?
I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, and apples too are such a wonderful Samhain symbol.
Mm-hmm.
They really, I associate them with Samhain. I associate them with, sort of like the fruit of the other world.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much divination associated with apples at Samhain as well. Well, or Halloween, I should say. There's lots of Victorian Halloween games that involve apple divination.
Yeah, go.
Or like bobbing for apples too.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah. That was I'm not really sure, but I think it had something to do with divination of who your sweetheart would be, or something along that nature. I don't know. It's not something I've ever really done, but I've seen it in folklore and that. So yeah. And the peanuts, of course, they were bobbing for apples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only time I did it, I got water up my nose.
Yeah.
There's one apple divination where you pair the peel. So you peel it and you try and make it as long of a peel as possible, the whole apple if possible. And you take the peel and throw it over your left shoulder, and it will land in the shape of the letter of your future love.
Right. Yeah, we did that in West Virginia.
I've tried, but it's I've tried it before, and sometimes it's tough to decipher a letter out of an apple peel.
Yeah. That's usually what I got. So I just didn't worry about it. But we did have contests to see how long of an apple peel we could peel off in one go. And I got in trouble with that in culinary school. We were supposed to use peelers to do that, and I was always paring apple peels with a knife, and I got crabbed at. They were like, "Oh, you're wasting some of the apple," and I was just like, "Okay, I'm sorry." Weirdo.
I've never used a peeler. I just always used a paring knife. It's easier.
It's faster.
Yeah.
It's way faster. Same with potatoes. They get on me about it with the potatoes. I'm like, you can't pull the eyes out or anything as well. So I just made sure they didn't see what I was doing. I, kind of skulk around in the corner using my paring knife. If I saw anybody coming, I'd drop it and then pull the peeler out and act like I was actually doing what I was supposed to do.
Right. Food, I love the food of fall too. The harvest. It's considered the final harvest of the season. Mm-hmm. So this is the last of the crops that you're grabbing, and there's also the folklore that says don't pick any blackberries or berries off of bushes after Samhain, because those are for the fae, or you'll get sick. Like I remember, it's like that's the fae food.
Yeah.
So, you saying potatoes made me think of another really fun. This is a custom that I try and do every single Samhain. I make a batch of colcannon, which is an Irish dish of just basically like mashed root vegetables. So it's potato. There's turnip in it. What else did I put in it? Leeks. And I feel like I'm missing something really important. Green onions, kale.
Yeah.
And for non-vegans, just add a ton of cream and butter. And for vegans, there are definite replacements. But the nice thing about Coal Cannon at Halloween is that it can also become a divination game where there are these little, traditionally, and you have to do it carefully so it's not a choking hazard, but traditionally people would put these little trinkets into the coal cannon. And depending on what trinket you get in your serving determines how your next year is going to go.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah.
It's so fun. It's really delicious too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's such a good comfort food. Oh my God. So, like if you get the coin, you're going to have money. And I guess there's these little like baby figurines. People say you can get them for king's cake as well.
Yeah.
That means you're going to, have a baby, or a ring means you're going to get married. So it's like very traditional, but in 2022, we can add whatever trinkets we want and give new meanings if we feel like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But even without the trinkets, it's a really great Halloween or Samhain tradition.
It sounds yummy. Like you said, comfort food, right?
Yeah.
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 That's why I love this like, it's the Holy Trinity. I love the food. Like, I just want to like eat warm food and just put pumpkin spice in
every darn thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Apple pie, the soups, the slow cooker, all that stuff. Like, I love cozy comfort.
That's right. Yeah.
So Halloween and Samhain is sort of like the celebration. And in a way too, we were talking earlier about kind of like the fun of finding witchy decorations. In a way, our homes are large altars. Mm-hmm. And so, when you find those fun things that you can hang up, it's like dressing a large altar, your home, and making it, a magical place to reflect the magic of one of the oldest, still being practiced holidays.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the idea of the home as an altar. And I know that one of the New Year's things you're supposed to do is you're supposed to clean your house and dust it really well. And I always somehow manage to not remember to do that. I don't know why. But around Halloween, my feeling is the cobwebs are now decor. It helps give that Addams Family feel to the house. Zach just noticed some in the living room. He's like, "Oh my God." I'm like, "Yeah, but spiders got to live too. They got to have a house. So long as they're up there in the top corners of the room, they're not down here scaring the pants off of me. So they live up there." And he's like, "Okay, I know that sounds like an excuse, but I also know that you really don't love the spiders down near you." And I'm like, "Exactly. I like them doing their thing in their place." So, we don't do the dusting and sweeping everything quite as diligently as we should. But one of the other New Year's things that I think is really a fun thing to do, like Susan said, is looking for what you want to bring into the new year with you, what you want to end and what you want to begin. So I like that thought. I like to, if I'm working on a project, I like to sort of do some ritual to bring it forward. You can't always start a project right on the perfect astrological date, or holiday date. It just doesn't happen that way. But you can kind of give it a little push when you come to the nearest holiday and sort of give it a good send off into the ether. So I'll be doing that this year, and we'll see how that goes. Costumes. I love costumes. So yeah, we tend to go to the Ren Fair closest to Halloween that we can manage. So that's.
Did you dress up, or are you going to be in a costume on Halloween proper?
I dressed up for the Ren Fair. I was wearing one of my witchy outfits because most of my clothes can eventually be turned into witchy outfits. Not the stuff I wear every day. The stuff I wear every day, I kind of just it's stuff that I can get food or plant material or dirt or paint on, because I'm always messing in something that's messy. I said not that long ago to Steph Quick, I didn't understand how Frida Kahlo could wear those beautiful clothes that she wore all the time and paint, because I've got photographs of her. I mean, maybe they were just posed or something. I don't know. But she's painting in these gorgeous dresses, and I'm like, nah, I can't do that. There's no way. I can be wearing, the crappiest of clothes, and I'll get it on me, and it just becomes crappier clothes. But for the Ren Fair, I did dress up in my witchier sorts of outfits, and but I didn't wear my witch hat. I thought about it, but it was too warm. It's black, and it was wool. It was too no. It was not cool enough in Ohio for that business. But we had fun, and we all dressed up, so we had a great time.
Nice.
I love it.
Yeah, I like to dress up. Not when I'm painting or doing things around the house. No, because like aside from the fact I'm a slob, so I mean, like I would wreck my fun witchy outfits, but
Yeah,
I do
exactly.
try to dress up, or especially around Halloween. Of course, I'll do something fun, but with my witchy outfits, I do try to wear them out and about, just for my own. For me, it's part of my magical toolkit, because I see myself then truly as a witch when I'm kitted out like one, including my broomstick. So,
Yep.
like I have a couple of them that I've decorated and really made my own. So I love that. I love dressing up. I love the idea of costume parties and things like just Halloween for me is just that wonderful time of year when we can just do and be and whatever we want.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
fun.
it can be empowering too.
Yeah. Oh
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So
I always say that when you dress up on Halloween, it could be as magical as shape shifting.
Mhm.
So, use it as an opportunity to consider it as glamour magic. What do you want to be? What do you want to embody? What are the things that are special and sacred to you? Or are you trying to be funny and silly? I don't know. I'm obviously I'm kind of wimpy, so I don't like horror movies and I don't like guts and gore. And, so for Halloween, for me, I always try and think of what is something I want to embody, and can I bring that into my makeup or into the colors or into what I wear?
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of fun. I have an art class on Halloween.
Oh.
So I feel really cool because I get to put on the costume of painter.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Or artist, which I really like. I really like that. So
Yeah.
What kind of art class is it?
it's watercoloring.
Woo!
It's foundations of watercoloring. So
Cool.
I'm trying.
Cool.
Trying my best.
Cool. Well, as you know, I've been playing with watercolor too, so
Oh, yes.
I can hook you up with some handmade watercolors that are really, really interesting. I have some coming that I got for my birthday, so we'll see how they are, and I'll report back.
Yeah, I love the sparkly ones that you've been sharing.
Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Those are fun. The ones
Mhm.
I got for my birthday they're called granulating colors, which is a way that the pigment spreads in different patterns with the water. So instead of being a wash of color, you have a wash of color, and then you get this particulate matter that comes out of the pigment. Like it dries in different rates. So you'll have little speckles of color through the wash. So it's every time you use it, it's going to be different.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's like
And then,
magical alchemy.
Yeah, and then you also have these weird colors that are duochrome. So they have two colors in there. It looks like one color when you wet it, and then when you put it over the paper. But then they dry at different rates because of the types of pigment, and you get like you use two colors at once. So these are fun. I will keep you in the loop, both of you, To me, that's just as
Yes, please
magical
do.
as using a magic wand. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And you could bring magic into your art
Oh,
in
yeah.
so many ways. So many ways, even from crafting and for,
Yes.
people who, we're talking about lots of ancestral, decorations. I always think about all the altar art that you can create, from spell bottles to candles to a painting, to sigils to a mixed media piece that, is a Book of Shadows page. There's so much you could do. And I think that Samhain is a wonderful time to tap into that. And if you're looking for a prompt, maybe what Susan was saying earlier too, what is, reflect on your previous year. What were the highlights? What are you ready to leave behind, and what do you want to bring in for the following year?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Or doodle it, or automatic draw it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Also, handcrafts for people who sew, who spin, who crochet, who knit.
I just started knitting this summer.
Weaving.
Yeah,
you.
and so I've just started to perfect it enough that I feel confident enough. I'm going to try to make a scarf for my husband. So I'm going to be pouring my intentions into this scarf. So, and that's something too that I'll be starting out in this Samhain season. So and yeah, I'll be thinking like, the intentions I want
Yep.
for him into this piece that I'm making, that I'm handcrafting. So I really have loving knitting now. So who knows where it's gonna go, but that's my thing at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, macrame is another good one. Lots and lots of old folk magic and old witchcraft spells had knots in them, or it was spinning a thread that had bits and pieces of stuff other than the fiber in it, like hair, someone's hair, or bits of herbs or plants. Like you can spin thorns or nettles into the thread that you're making or into the yarn that you're making. And so lots and lots of the really old stuff has that. Also, embroidery, the way women and girls did samplers. If you look at the poetry in some of them, it sounds like a spell, some of it. The blessings, each stitch is a thought or a wish. So about anything creative you do, it can be magical if you do it with intention. And
knitting and weaving just feels like it's like a meditative practice that puts you in a trance.
Yes.
It really is. That's why I'm enjoying it so much. It's like, yeah, it's really meditative. It's so relaxing.
Yes, that's how I feel when I do crochet. I learned crochet first when I was a kid. I never could do the knitting as well because it's two things. It was two sticks. One stick was easier for me, so I started crochet as a kid, and I can do it without looking at it. I did finally learn how to knit. Thank you, internet. But it's still, I'm not quite as able to do it as fluidly as I can with crochet. But crochet, man, I can just sit there and think about other things or think about whatever I want that piece to do or be. So it's a lot of fun. Embroidery, I can do the same way. Now, sewing garments on the sewing machine is not nearly as meditative or fun for me, but that involves taking flat fabric and making it fit a three-dimensional form. That's not as easy.
Yeah, no, my mother used to love to sew. Like, most of my clothes as a child were hand done or with the sewing machine. That my mom was like, she was such a good seamstress. And I could feel that the intention that she put in, the love in those clothing and things. I am not good as a seamstress. Like, I did have a sewing machine for a while, and it's just like you said, it's a talent. But the knitting for me seems to be working out. So
Yay!
that's my
awesome.
Samhain, one of my Samhain projects that I'm beginning in the cozy season that's coming. Like you said, time for comfort food and knitting and, warmth and, family if we have one, or people that we're close to and we love. Our beings are my cats, So yeah, it is a lovely time of year.
Yeah. And it's I know it's spooky time, and I'm like Kiki. I mean, I can stomach gross things in movies pretty well because I know it's special effects. But if it's about something like a serial killer or something, I can't watch it because that to me is a real horror. I don't like that. But if it's about ghosts or whatever, it generally doesn't bother me. Mainly because most movies don't capture what a haunted area is actually like.
Yeah, exactly.
Stories can do that. My dad used to read ghost stories out loud on Halloween once I was old enough to not, run screaming into the night. But yeah, we could do ghost stories, especially some of the older ones like by Algernon Blackwood or Ambrose Bierce. He really liked those. So we would, and of course, Edgar Allan Poe. Speaking of gruesome, but I generally don't like really gruesome stuff. So I like to do, but I do recognize that, most people recognize the otherworldly as being closer at Samhain time, that the veil between the worlds is thin at Samhain time, thinner than any other time of year besides Beltane. Now, I think that's technically because the trooping fairies of Ireland and Scotland moved on those 2 days. They gathered together and moved from one of their dwelling places to another. That's the tradition. But I think that, there's enough folklore from all over the world that says that, the dead rise and move on Halloween, Samhain, anyway, even if it's, not in Europe. There's certain days that the dead rise, and that's part of where trick-or-treating came from, is people dressed as ghouls and the dead and the good folk as a means of fellowship with them. Also, so they wouldn't mess with you because they thought you were one of their own. That was another of the little tricks that you could pull. But I really like that the idea of talking with your ancestors. People are afraid of ghosts, and generally, if it is the ghost of a human, if it really is someone who is deceased, generally they're not that scary. I always think of them as either confused or sad, or they're just looking out for you. Especially if they're a relative, they're almost always looking in for your welfare to make sure that the people they left behind are okay. So, that's part of why you leave one window cracked open or one of your doors part way open so they can come in, and, you ask them to come in. And, I figure if you ask someone to come in, it's really rude to be afraid of them if they do.
That is true.
True.
I always feel like the ancestors have our back on the other side. And so I've never really come across, as you've said, like a human spirit that's really, horrified me or scared me, or, more of a curious, like, oh, you're here. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So I don't view that part of I guess probably because of being a witch. That part of the spirit world as being the scary kind of kitsch stuff that we see, like in horror films or that are part of, like, say, Halloween, even though there's like the sort of blending of Samhain with Halloween. But I view Samhain in a different sense than I do Halloween. I do like horror movies. I'm gonna just say that straight up. I do like them. I like zombie films and things.
Oh, those
I
are
know,
fun.
yeah, but I also get that, it's just not for some people.
Yeah.
Like I have 3 daughters. One's really into horror movies and she'll watch them with me. The other one's somewhat into horror movies, and the other one, no, not at all. No. No, 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 no. So, I mean, it's different things for different people, right?
Yeah.
But I get you, especially with the true crime stuff. You have to be very, you have to be respectful of the fact that people have suffered and that this is a crime, and it's something very different than, like spooky fun, right? Like a good ghost story or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, and even though I don't like horror movies, I and this might be really weird, shocking, but I love like paranormal TV. Like I love it.
Yeah.
And I know that it's entertainment first and foremost. It isn't there are some shows that I totally do not like.
Yeah.
There are some that I love to watch. So while I can't watch horror movies, I really loved watching the Holzer Files. That was really good. And I loved, not ghosts, but Expedition Bigfoot. And so this time of year, I really like to curl in with like a mug of hot cider and watch my little ghost shows.
Yeah, those are fun, right? I like sometimes, like, even if you take it like some of this stuff with a grain of salt, because like obviously it's for entertainment, but the places that some of these people will go to, they're just, it's amazing, because like they're places I may never get to go to, but I'm fascinated by them. So like I especially like all the castles and things like that in the UK. I like that kind of thing, like, world's most haunted. So I mean, like even with Yvette Fielding and that, I still like, okay, I'll take this part as entertainment, but at the same point, I like the places they're going to. It's so interesting, and I'd like to go ghost hunting there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah. Savannah is supposed to be a very, very haunted town. But I really have not engaged with anything paranormal, and maybe I'm separated from it because I live, away from the downtown area. But we have ghosts. It's a town that has like the ghost tours, and there's haunted cemeteries and some pretty. It's interesting. I don't know. It almost hurts to hear some of the tragedies that come with the hauntings in Savannah. Whereas when I hear the stories of, Nottingham Castle or whatever, I'm just like, this is so cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what makes it different, but yeah, I'm happy to know that this is a town that celebrates. Maybe it's a way to honor the dead. Maybe that's one way to look at it. We're honoring the dead by highlighting their stories.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that would be a fun thing to do too for Halloween, if you can, is like go on a ghost tour, or like, even a dark history kind of tour or something like that, to kind of get into the spirit of the season. And like you said, in some ways it can be, as long as they're not exploiting. Like I've seen some that are kind of exploitive, or like I don't like when people scream at the dead, like,
oh, that's
or like,
tacky.
stop screaming at the dead, like, no. Like, but otherwise, yeah, it could be fun things to do in a way to honor people that have gone before us, because I view the ancestors not just as my direct like people, but the ancestors could be like great witches of the past, or people that call out to me, that may not have a direct link to me per se, but I view them as an ancestor, because we are all linked, at the end of the day we are. So, but I will look at the ancestors as larger than just my direct family kind of line. So these things can be honoring the dead. in a much greater kind of way. The dead of Savannah, right? Am I saying that right? Savannah? Savannah.
Savannah? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a beautiful cemetery here called Bonaventure.
Yeah,
and
that one's pretty.
Yeah, it's a really pretty cemetery. And that's something people enjoy at this time of year too. There's always like lantern tours or like,
Mhm.
tours that go through the cemetery in the evening at this time of year. I find that a really special way to honor the dead as well, is to reflect on, what messages they leave behind in their gravestones. And I grew up in Connecticut, and all the colonial, like the town I grew up in has this old cemetery, like Revolutionary War stones.
Right.
So it's always just been so fun to like go and read, and it really is a place that can be a place of, memento mori.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really remembering that, we're all heading in the same direction.
Yep. Nobody gets out of this
Exactly.
life alive. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't.
Definitely a reflection of Samhain. It's certainly, something that people ponder and think about this time of year.
Yeah.
And not just that, but also grief and coping with grief and working through grief and, addressing it and being okay when you have a moment where you have grief. I think that maybe that's a little bit more deep and psychological. It's not as fun as saying like, yeah, we eat candy, but
But it's Americans don't like to talk about grief, and we don't like to talk about death, and we don't like to think about death. So anything that puts us towards that area in a semi-positive, healthy way, I think is great.
I agree.
Because we are separated from death very, very much. And I think that's bad for our psyches, and the idea of being afraid of something that is going to happen. It just is kind of maladaptive. And it really, I think it just does something to our psyches that isn't healthy. And the more we engage with the idea that, no, this is going to happen, the better we can deal with it when it does happen.
I agree.
Because it's gonna.
Yeah.
And I do. Yeah. I'm sorry, Kiki, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and learning how to move through those stages, that stage with grace, not for yourself, but also for the people that you might be holding space for as they go through that process.
Yes.
It's heavier conversation, but I think it's so valuable and precious. There's actually a hospice nurse, and I don't know her name, but she's on TikTok and Instagram, and she talks really, really openly about, sort of what occurs during these final phases and, how people cope. And, the stories she shares, are really empowering. In some way, it makes you feel comfortable with it. So I think that when we do discuss it, we have to have a little bit more comfort. So it was really nice to listen to her. And she also brings up the fact that one very, very common occurrence with many, many people when they're kind of in the final stages of life is that they start talking to people you don't see.
Yeah.
They see other people. This, I've watched it personally. They're talking to somebody who's there, having a full conference, looking up and talking. And this is very common.
Yep.
It's just expected.
This happened with both my parents and my grandmother.
Wow.
Yeah. So I absolutely hear you. In the case of my mom, we were able to pre-plan because we knew she was terminally ill and she wanted to die at home, which she did, surrounded by her loved ones. My aunties, after she had passed, they cleaned her up. We dressed her in the outfit that she wanted to be in. We put in her teeth and brushed her hair, did her nails and everything, and got to spend that time with her before they came. The coroner had to come and pick her up and bring her to the funeral home. But I think it was very cathartic for us to be able to do that as a family. And I've told that to other people who have found it kind of weird. Oh, your mom died at home and you were brushing her hair and all that. But I mean, I think that that's part of the idea, that we're separated from death too much. And I think that if we were able to, maybe this is not for everybody to be able to tend to their own dead, but if we were more connected with it, or we understood it better, like you said, the lady on TikTok, in that maybe we would have a greater understanding of our own place on this planet, and how we all will go back into this planet or into the atmosphere, and we are all really part of one, and everything we eat and do and breathe is from the ancestors, and we too will be ancestors. And maybe I'm being wishful thinking, but we could perhaps be better stewards to our planet and our home here if we had that connection, which we've lost, because most people have, I think, lost that, because we don't want to talk about death, we don't want to think about it, we don't want to think about grief until it like hits us like a ton of bricks. And I think we need to have these conversations more, and maybe not just Samhain time, but so there's a really good YouTube too. There's a mortician I like.
Ask a mortician.
Yeah.
I was going to mention Caitlin.
Yes.
Caitlin Doty. She's written several books. She is a mortician, and she is an advocate for what she calls a good death and a good caring for the dead afterwards. And she has all of these really great videos. She even talks about what being a mortician is like. And she is one of the morticians who allows people and encourages people to care for the dead body in a family way, the way that we used to do.
Yes.
Because morticians didn't used to be a thing. And she really makes it easier for people to connect with their ancestors, essentially, by caring for their own dead. And she just is really and she's funny too. I mean, she is really, really funny. About a year ago, a drag queen did a parody of her channel dressed up as her, and it was amazing. Caitlin's fans finally, got her to do a reaction video to it. And she was like, oh, she got me so good. But it's so amazing. She's like, I feel so touched that someone cared enough to do this, and do it both in a gotcha kind of way, but in a kind way, that she's like, I feel like we should go out for tea. And of course the drag queen answered back and was like, girl, when this pandemic is over, we're going out. Because but to be able to make jokes about death also helps us deal with death and make peace with death. And so she straddles that line. She can be dead serious. I didn't mean to say that, but I didn't mean to make a pun, but she can be very, very serious, but she also will make you laugh. And so she's engaging to everybody. Fox, who I think saw the first Caitlin video with me, was about 13 and squeamish. Now they watch her all the time on their own, and is thinks it's great. So I suggest her to just about everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
I looked up the name of the hospice nurse too, so now people have some really some death doulas to go watch and contemplate sitting with for a minute. So her name is Julie McFadden, and she just goes by Hospice Nurse Julie on Instagram and TikTok. but she also, is very, she's very, very personable and really, while she's very clinical in some cases, she states the facts, she states what's going on, but she does so with nurturing in her voice and her demeanor. I don't know how better to explain it. So, which is, is a really special talent for that type of role.
Yeah. Well, she has to do it every day with her patients' families. She has to be able to explain it to people who are already grieving, so it's an ability that she's probably really, really good with. And now she's taking it out from just her patients out to the world, which is, I think, a very noble endeavor. Same with Caitlin.
Yeah. I think
go ahead.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, it's just a gift, and we're really lucky to have people like that opening these conversations up and, allowing us to talk about it. Grief, I always say, is the most unpredictable emotion. So it is really nice to take time to set aside and say, I'm so thankful to my ancestors. I'm so thankful to my fur babies. I'm so thankful to my parents, my grandparents, my great-great-grandparents. And, just have that moment to embrace that feeling of love and appreciation for the moments that you can share with them.
Yeah.
And know that they're okay.
Yeah.
I always like that too. It's always funny when people, want mediumship readings or, what's the message from the other side? They're okay and they love you.
Yeah.
That's almost always what it is. I wonder why that is. I think maybe because it's true.
Yeah. Exactly. Survey says they're okay and they love you. Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting. I'm not one to I'm not a medium, so I don't really hear spirits talking and translate them for other people. But every time I've seen someone that I could definitively say was the spirit of a dead person or the soul of a dead person, they've been okay.
Yeah.
If anything, one of the really obvious ones was playful and was just so excited that, she could fly, that she just kept, sort of flitting around the room. And then she realized I could see her, and I was at her funeral, and she just sort of started waving at me and stuff. And yeah, I started giggling, and that's not socially acceptable. So I had to pretend I was crying.
It seems that there's a lot of liberation from, the limitations of the body we're renting.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of liberation. I just think I'm so happy that this is the motion of the conversation, because it's so embedded into the traditions and the Samhain and the celebrations of Samhain and honoring the dead, but also honoring death.
Yes.
And just, I think that's really, really cool and important. And, like I said, I get squeamish, I'm hypersensitive, so I don't like anything gory, but if we can do things in an honorable way and take care of our loved ones, who have experienced loss as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got heavier than we thought we would, but it is a heavy holiday. Even with the fun, there's heaviness to it. So
it's the end of the cycle, right? But with ending becomes possibilities and new beginnings. So we go into that quiet period, like you said, the comfy, cozy time when we're going to eat and have comfort foods, and it's dark, and it's just that wonderful meditative period that will usher in new things, new beginnings. Springtime is coming.
Yeah.
But to appreciate that, we also need the closure. We need that end of the cycle. So it is
Yeah.
heavy. It's a heavy time. As much as there's joy, there's that as well.
Well, and then to reflect on those heavier subjects and having those deeper discussions, it allows us to be really hold ourselves in a space of gratitude. Like, holy crap, I am so lucky. Like, I am alive. I'm breathing. I've got all these really cool things around me. I'm getting gnome toys. They look like little witches. And, like, life is okay.
Yeah.
You know, so in some ways, Samhain is a magical experience, you know, even having those heavy discussions, it allows us to just really make, I know that like I hold my friends and my family in such like a space of just total love and appreciation. And when I think about things like that, I'm like, oh God, I'm so grateful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I hope everybody else has that sensation at one point this October in Samhain season as well.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to look at it.
Absolutely.
One more thing I'll say about the heavy discussion of death is I like the Irish tradition of the wake, that families and it's in Appalachia as well. As soon as you hear that a neighbor's family member has died, what do? You go over to their house with a covered dish of casserole, of a pie, of a cake, of anything, a ham. My grandma always made a ham for people. A ham, colcanon, a big dish of that, because these are things that can heat up easily. And why do you do that? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One, you know that the family is going to descend upon this household to gather, to celebrate the life and to grieve together. So they need food. And you also know that they're in a state of shock and they can't think to cook for themselves. Sometimes people don't even want to eat. And it's not until they smell food that someone has made for them with love that their body wakes up enough to be hungry and to eat. There's also a metaphysical side to this. When you grieve, when you've been near someone who has died, especially if you have attended at the bedside, you need to separate yourself from the spirit of death. You need to remember that you are alive. In the old days, if you grieved too much, if you forgot to eat, people would worry that you would die, that you had become too connected to the realm of death, and you would follow your loved one there. And that's part of what the wake does. Is it when people then gather after the funeral, they tell stories about the loved one, and you know, they eat and they drink and they push food on to especially the close family and the people who were at the bedside. And they you know, give them a drink of whiskey if they drink, if they partake, because they need to be in their body. They need to be in their body. They need to recognize that they are alive. And it's really, really, it helps so many things. Having been part of that tradition in Appalachia and watching it, it brings people together again. Even if there was a feud in the family, it brings people together again. And it keeps the family together and the friends. And it's a way for people to show love without having to talk, because especially for Americans, we just screw up when we try to talk with grieving people. We don't mean to, but you know, what you know, we say stupid things like it'll be okay. Well, yes, it will, but they don't want to hear that right now. But you can show that by giving them a piece of pie. You don't have to say it. You know, you can hug them, you can give them food, you can bring them blankets, there's so many things that you can do. And it has to do with remembering that you're alive and helping
Yes.
someone get past that very first painful grief of feeling like you're dead inside because the shock is too much.
Mm-hmm.
So here's to the people who have wakes.
Yes.
Here, here. Yeah.
In our family, it tends to be like fried chicken for some reason. Like,
Oh, that I can see
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it
yeah,
keeps well.
mashed potatoes, things like that. Yeah.
Yep, it keeps well. And
Yeah.
fried chicken you can eat cold or hot. Doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
good either way.
Well, it's comfort food. Also, it's grounding.
Yep.
Mhm.
It does. It really does put you right back in your body.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Maybe also makes you a little sleepy, which is important too if you're
Yes.
going through that. You may not be sleeping.
Yes, that's true. It's interesting that it does all of these things, and we think of it as, well, that's just what we've always done. But the why sometimes gets lost, and then you understand it after you've experienced it or seen it done enough over and over and over. You recognize, oh, that's why, you know. And it's good. And, you know, it's food. So food's always good.
Food is always
Indeed
good.
it is. I love cooking this time of year. I can't bake, but I could cook. So somebody else has to bring the pie, or I'll just go to Costco and get the pie. But I love seeing people get creative with their food, like Halloween weird stuff is, little witch cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just such a good thing, and in many ways, that cooking of that food is magical too, and that's another handcraft.
Yes, it
that's,
is.
Mhm.
You're really pouring, and you can taste the love
Yes.
and the effort that's gone into food.
Yes.
Absolutely.
100%. So, and that's fun. I'm thinking, I just had this thank God, tonight I'm going to my bestie's house. She made soup, and I'm just like, oh, I can't wait, because it's like finally getting a little colder here at night. We're gonna have soup, and it's like food brings everybody together.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's this opportunity to share and show that you care about something. I'm being fed. I can't wait. I'm so glad I'm a freegan, because that's apparently the term. I use flexitarian, but freegan is somebody who, when the food is just gifted to them, they'll eat whatever.
That's how I am.
Yeah.
I'll even, the only thing I won't eat is if I'm allergic to it. But if somebody made something for me and it's not something I would normally eat, and even if it looks a little scary, I will eat it. So
Yeah.
I have
Same.
done that.
Gratitude.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And this weekend, we're I'm having some folks over to do divination, so we're going to do some readings together, and get the tarot cards out, get the trinket kits out, and also we're going to be doing art together. I said, why don't we just make grimoire pages, or just put together information on the holiday and what we're going through.
That's awesome.
Nice.
I like that.
So no circle, but it'll be a witch's circle at the kitchen table, which is
That's
just
perfect.
as powerful,
Yes.
in my opinion.
That's 100% perfect.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is anybody doing any pumpkin carving? Oh, are there pumpkins in Italy?
Yes. Yeah. We have our pumpkins ready, and we will carve them later on this week. And what we've done since we've lived here, like I live very rural in the mountains, in the Apennine Mountains in northern Italy. And we live in a small village. So we will put the pumpkins out at night, and I will light them. And then what we've been doing is, a few days after, we will take the pumpkins deep into the forest, up higher up into the mountain, as high as we can go, and we will use them as an offering. And what I do is I keep the guts and the seeds, because I can't really, I would love to make a pumpkin pie from scratch, but I'm not really a baker either. It's it's not going to work out for me.
It's
So I
honestly
keep
a lot of work.
Yeah, so I keep all this stuff and I bring it as well for offerings up at the top of the mountain, and yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'll pour libations as well.
Yep.
So
Wow.
that's our little ritual that keeps going. Yeah, no, and we'll have a nice supper and that. Like I said, it's my husband's birthday, so and he enjoys carving the pumpkins as well. So it is something
Oh,
we do. We're very rural here, so we don't. There are trick-or-treaters now. They do trick-or-treat in Italy and most places, even though the Vatican's like, no, you shouldn't be doing that. But people do it all the more.
It
So people
involves
have
food. The
yeah.
Italians will do it.
Yeah. So yeah, they do trick or treating, but because we're in like a small, like I said, we're in rural and there's little villages plunked throughout this mountain here. So we have a local castle and the castle opens up and children can go there and they can trick or treat in the various rooms of the castle,
That's
which is
awesome.
really, really cool. Yeah.
I want to go. I want to trick or treat
You
there.
want to trick or treat in our local castle. And it is a very strange, fairy tale-ish looking castle. So that's been
Oh,
restored.
That makes
and,
it perfect.
Yeah. So that's how Halloween rolls here. Although, like I said, it's discouraged officially from the Vatican. Although Vatican isn't in charge of Italy, but it is a Catholic country. So every year the Pope kind of says, no, you shouldn't be doing, devil's work or whatever. But people do celebrate it here, and kids do dress up and they do trick or treat. And especially in areas where like there's American bases here that have been
Yeah.
here for like decades. And of course, the American tradition of trick-or-treating came to Italy, I think that way. Though they have celebrated Samhain and versions of Samhain for a long, long time. And it's because in our region here, there was large Celtic community. So some of these traditions that go back to the Celts, are still carried forward here in modern sort of ways. Like they'll do big fires and things like that. And yeah. So that's kind of really cool too. But that's what we'll be doing. And yeah, we'll be taking our offerings, our jack-o'-lantern offerings up to the top of the mountain. It's a very magical time, very magical experience.
And you can physically feel the liminality at this time too, because nature is changing.
Yeah.
So, even I feel like I'm going into this little sleepy hibernation mode because it's getting dark really early.
Oh, yeah. I'm not used to that yet.
Or, it's warm during the day and then at night it cools down. It gets really cold and it's crisp. It's not humid anymore. And, the colors are changing outside and there's acorns and pine. Oh my God, we have so many pine cones on the property here. The transition of nature makes it feel so liminal, and the leaves are dying, nature is going to go to rest now. And I'm also going to go to rest after eating lots of comfort food.
Yes.
I wanted to tell a story about our pumpkin donation to the woods. We do the same thing, but because we live right next to the woods, usually we just go on our front stoop and just sort of toss the pumpkins down the hill. And usually that's fine because there's lots of trees. So it rolls a little bit and then hits a tree and it stops. That's good. That's the way it should work. But Morgana, she doesn't really know her own strength half the time. And so there was one year when she was a teenager, and I think it was probably like the first year that Fox actually remembered us doing pumpkin carving. Because Morgana was 16 when Fox was born. So I think she was around 18 or 19, something like that. And she picked hers up, and we leave ours on the steps until the squirrels start nibbling at them. Before we give them to the forest comes and starts to take them away. And it's usually squirrels first. If it's raccoons, they end up halfway down the hill before we've donated them anyway. So anyway, I picked up mine and tossed it, and it went splat and then kind of and hit a tree. And then Zach picked up Fox's and tossed it, and he tossed his, and it rolled 3 times, hit a tree. Somehow Morgana, in throwing it overhand, so she actually used some muscle. Somehow it dodged the trees. I don't know. It hit once and started to roll, and it went all past the trees. It went into our neighbor's yard, across their driveway, down the hill, along the side of the road, and kept going.
Wow.
Until it finally,
a zombie pumpkin.
I know.
There you go.
We were both like, oh well, it'll stop. It'll stop. It'll stop. Oh God. So I drove down and had her riding shotgun. I'm like, all right, we can't leave it in the middle of the road because an animal's gonna get hit trying to eat it. So I'm gonna drive down, you jump out, you grab it, and then toss it into the woods by the side of the road. And she was like, I feel like this is somehow kind of like, I don't know, Nightmare Before Christmas mixed with Raising Arizona. This is just wrong. This is just bizarre. But we did get it out of the middle of the road where it finally settled, and she tossed it into the woods. But I'm sure that there were people looking out their windows going, what are they doing? What are those two doing now? They're always doing something.
They're celebrating the season.
Yeah.
She was like, oh my God, people are going to think I threw pumpkins at them. Oh. We have never repeated that mistake. I was like, underhand with a short kind of throw, so it just plops. You're
like a bowling ball, not a softball.
Oh, I was like, and then I have a friend who, after Halloween every year, buys up cheap pumpkins that are on sale, and he has a trebuchet that he built, which is a siege machine. And he lives way out in the country, and we fling pumpkins, see who can fling a pumpkin the fastest or the best or the hardest or the farthest. And sometimes we have people shoot arrows into them while they're in the air, but
Wow. Skill.
That is one way to give a libation to the spirits of nature.
Oh, yes. And after we do that, there's always, for the next few nights, there's he calls it the pumpkin raccoon orgy, that the raccoons go and just fill up on pumpkin. I was like, oh boy.
This time of year is the best. I'm so
I know.
As always, it's always so nice to talk to you both, because it reminds me of how special these days are, and just pausing to talk about it or to reflect on it, or to listen to this. It's just like, whew, we made it.
Yep.
The season is great. Mm-hmm. This is going to be good. What do I do to continue to enhance the magic in my life for my benefit and for the benefit of those I love?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and it's time to rest too. Like it's a good time to, we've gone through so much. It's time to just rest and rejuvenate, recharge. And, before we know it, the light will start returning again and spring will come. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. We've earned it. A nice rest.
Yes.
Nice cozy
I think so.
time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
November is one of my favorite months. It's because you recuperate from all the wild fun and all the active season. And November, we have one of our yummy food eating holidays here. But really, it's so quiet. I love the quiet months of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And November is just one of them where it's like, all I have to do today is curl up on the couch, watch a football game, or it's just so easy. It's an easy month.
Yeah, it's a good month. Well, does anyone else have anything else to say? Because we've gone over all the goodness, I think.
I hope everybody. Oh, sorry, you go.
I think we're probably going to say the same thing. I was just going to wish everyone a blessed Samhain and a happy Halloween, and just lots of good things coming. Just good wishes, good positive thoughts for everybody. Mhm.
I love that. And I was going to say similar.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween, happy Samhain, and I hope that everybody this year finds exactly what they need to feel comfortable and cozy and grounded.
I agree. I wish everyone a blessed Samhain, a happy Halloween, and if you do toss your jack-o'-lantern down the hill, just be careful how you do it, and not overhand, underhand, just a little toss. It's not a discus. It's not a shot put. You don't have to do that. All right. Well, thank you, ladies. It's always great to talk with you, and have a good Samhain, you all.
You too. Thank you.
Well, that's all for this week's episode of the 6 Degrees of John Keel podcast. If you have any questions or thoughts about the podcast, or would like to come and talk about your experiences of the paranormal, you can contact us at 6djk67@gmail.com. We promise to even answer you, and we are always happy to hear from you. Thank you.